Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, there are moments in history when time pauses and quietly asks a question. What separates a land of endless sand from a land of endless wealth? Is it luck, destiny, or something far more uncomfortable, something most people spend their entire lives avoiding? Because the truth is, wealth has never been about what you see. It has always been about what you are willing to endure when no one is watching. And tonight, we are not just talking about a nation, we are talking about a mindset, a way of thinking that turned nothing into everything. Beloved listeners, before the shining skylines, before the world records, before the luxury cars and golden towers, there was silence, a silence that stretched across the deserts of the United Arab Emirates, a silence that most people would look at and walk away from. Because when you look at emptiness, it does something to your mind. It whispers, there is nothing here. And slowly, you begin to believe it. And isn't that where most people lose the game of money? Not because they lack resources, but because they lack belief. There was a time, not very long ago, when this land had no wealth, no global recognition, no towering symbols of success like Burj Khalifa, just heat, struggle, and uncertainty. And if we are honest, many of us are standing in our own version of that desert right now. You wake up, you work hard, but the money never seems enough. You dream big, but fear quietly tells you, this is not for people like you. You think about investing, starting something, changing your life. But then, hesitation arrives, dressed as logic. What if I fail? What if I lose what little I have? And just like that, another year passes. Dear viewers, the tragedy of most lives is not failure. It is hesitation. Because success, whether for a person or a nation, does not begin with resources. It begins with a decision. A decision to see possibility, where others see nothing. In the early days, the leaders of the UAE did not have guarantees. They did not have a roadmap. They did not have certainty. What they had was vision. And vision is a lonely thing. Because when you see a future that does not yet exist, you must carry it alone. You must believe in it before the world gives you a single reason to. Think about your own life. How many ideas have you buried simply because no one else believed in them? How many opportunities did you walk away from because they looked too small, too uncertain, too slow? You see, the world often celebrates the outcome, but it rarely talks about the quiet years, the years where nothing seems to be working, where effort feels invisible, where results refuse to appear. And this is where most people quit. They try saving money for a few months, then stop. They invest a little, but panic when the market moves. They start something, but abandon it when growth is slow, because deep down, they are chasing speed, not wealth. But wealth, dear listeners, is not built on speed. It is built on patience. When oil was discovered in the UAE, it would have been easy to celebrate, to spend, to enjoy the sudden flow of money. And many places in the world did exactly that. They found wealth, but never learned how to keep it. But here, something different happened. Instead of asking, how can we spend this? They asked, how can we multiply this salary for generations? And that is a question most people never ask, because we are trained from a young age to think short-term, earn, spend, survive. Repeat, no one teaches you. To think in decades, to plant seeds whose shade you may never sit under. Dear family of dreamers, there is a powerful lesson hidden here. Money is not just a tool. It is a test of your discipline, a test of your patience. test of your ability to delay gratification, and most people fail this test quietly, consistently. They earn more and spend more. They get opportunities and waste them. They start journeys, but never finish them, because discipline is not exciting. It does not give you instant rewards. It does not make you feel powerful in the moment. But over time, it builds something unshakable. In the case of the UAE, they took their early wealth and invested it, not just in buildings, but in systems, in infrastructure, in global connections. They understood something very few understand, that true wealth is not what you earn. It is what you build that continues to grow long after you stop working. And this is where many of us struggle. We work hard, but we do not build. We earn money, but we do not invest it wisely. We save, but without a purpose. We dream, but without a plan. And then, years later, we wonder, why am I still in the same place? Beloved listeners, there is no mystery here. The difference between staying where you are and creating something extraordinary is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is consistency, doing the right thing, again and again and again, even when it feels boring, even when it feels slow, even when no one is watching. There were years when the transformation of cities like Dubai and Abu Dhabi was not visible to the world, but the work was happening. Silently, plans were being made, investments were being placed, foundations were being built, and this is where the real battle is won, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, because anyone can stay motivated when results are visible, but only a few can remain disciplined when nothing seems to be happening. Dear viewers, if you look at your own financial journey, you will find moments where you gave up too early, where you expected results too quickly, where you allowed fear to make your decisions. And that is okay, because awareness is the beginning of change. The question is not what mistakes you have made. The question is, are you willing to think differently from this moment forward? Because the story of the UAE is not just about a country becoming rich. It is about a mindset that chooses long-term over short-term, a mindset that values patience over speed, a mindset that understands that greatness is not built in a day. It is built in the quiet, repeated, disciplined actions, day after day, year after year, until one day, the world looks at you and calls you an overnight success. And if you stay with that thought for a moment, you begin to realize something quietly powerful, that what the world celebrates in is often just the final chapter, while the real story is written in silence. You see, when the United Arab Emirates began shaping its future, it was not chasing applause, it was building certainty in a world full of uncertainty. And this is where your journey and their journey begin to mirror each other, because sooner or later, every person who seeks financial freedom must face the same invisible wall, the wall of doubt. It appears when your efforts don't pay off immediately, when your investments move slowly, or even fall, when your savings feel too small to matter. And in those moments, the mind begins to whisper, maybe this isn't working. Maybe this path isn't for me. But what if those very moments are the test? Not a test of your strategy, but a test of your emotional discipline. Dear listeners, money is deeply emotional. We like to believe it's logical. Numbers, calculations, strategies. But behind every financial decision, there is a feeling: fear, greed, impatience, pride. And unless you learn to manage these emotions, they will quietly manage you. This is why so many people start strong, but never finish. They invest, but panic when the market dips. They save, but give in to impulse. They plan, but abandon the plan when it feels uncomfortable. Because discipline, without emotional control, cannot survive. Now think about this. When a nation decides to transform its future, it cannot afford emotional decisions. It must think beyond the present moment, beyond temporary discomfort. The leaders who shaped cities like Dubai understood something profound, that the real power of wealth lies not in how much you have today, but in how well you can protect, grow, and multiply it over time. And this requires a kind of patience that most people are not comfortable with, a patience where you plant seeds and accept that for a long time, nothing will grow, no visible results, no external validation, no immediate reward, just faith. Faith in your process, faith in your discipline, faith that what you are building will eventually take shape. Dear family of dreamers, there is a quiet loneliness in long-term thinking, because the world around you is moving fast. People are chasing quick wins, showing instant success, living in the illusion of overnight wealth, and here you are, choosing the slow path. Saving when others are spending, investing when others are hesitating, staying consistent. When others are quitting, it doesn't feel glamorous. In fact, it often feels invisible. But invisibility is where strength is built. The UAE did not just invest in what was obvious. It invested in what was necessary: trade, tourism, infrastructure, global partnerships. It diversified, and that word carries a lesson so important, yet so often ignored. Never depend on a single source, not in nations, not in businesses, not in your personal finances, because dependence creates vulnerability, and vulnerability invites fear. But diversification creates stability. It allows you to stand firm, even when one part of your world shakes. Now ask yourself, are you building stability, or are you living in financial fragility? Do you rely on one income, one opportunity, one uncertain path, or are you slowly, patiently, building multiple streams, multiple layers, multiple foundations? Dear viewers, this is not about becoming rich quickly, it is about becoming unshakable, because true wealth is not just money, it is peace, the peace of knowing that you are not one mistake away from starting over, the peace of knowing that your future is not dependent on luck, the peace of knowing that you have built something strong, steady, and lasting, and this kind of peace cannot be rushed. It must be earned through silent sacrifices, the things no one sees, saying no when it's easier to say yes, waiting when it's tempting to act impulsively, continuing when everything inside you wants to stop. These are the moments that shape your financial destiny, just like they shape the destiny of a nation that refused to remain what it once was. A land once defined by limitations, now defined by vision, discipline, and execution. And the most powerful part? It didn't happen because they had more time or more luck. It happened because they made better decisions, consistently, over time. And that same opportunity exists for you, not tomorrow, not someday, but right now. In the small decisions you make daily, the money you choose to save, the risks you choose to take, the patience you choose to practice, because in the end, your life, like any great success story, will not be defined by a single moment, but by the quiet consistency of your choices. And perhaps, this is where the deeper realization begins to unfold, that wealth, in its truest form, was never just about money. It was about becoming the kind of person who can handle it without losing themselves. Because if you look closely, beyond the skyline, beyond the success, beyond the transformation of the United Arab Emirates, you will find something far more valuable than riches. You will find clarity, clarity that comes only to those who have walked through uncertainty, who have faced doubt, and still chosen to move forward, who have been tested by time and refused to break. Dear family of dreamers, at some point in this journey, something within you begins to change. You stop chasing quick results. You stop comparing your path with others. You stop reacting to every rise and fall, and slowly, you begin to operate from a place of calm, a calm that is not weakness, but strength, because now, your decisions are no longer driven by fear. They are guided by understanding. You understand that growth takes time. You understand that setbacks are part of the process. You understand that consistency will always outperform intensity. And with this understanding comes a quiet confidence, not the loud kind that seeks validation, but the grounded kind that does not need to prove anything, the kind that allows you to keep building, even when no one is watching, the kind that allows you to stay patient, even when results are delayed, the kind that allows you to trust in your journey, trust in your process, trust in the seeds you have planted, because deep down, you know that nothing done with discipline is ever wasted. The transformation of cities like Dubai was not just physical, it was philosophical. It was a reflection of what happens when vision meets patience, when discipline meets opportunity, when long-term thinking replaces short-term desire. And perhaps the most beautiful lesson of all is this, that you do not need perfect conditions to begin. You do not need certainty to take the first step. You do not need abundance to start building wealth. All you need is the willingness to think differently, to act differently, to persist when others give up. Because in the end, every great transformation, whether of a nation or a life, begins the same way, with a quiet decision, a decision that says, I will not remain where I am. And once that decision is made, everything else becomes a matter of time. So take a moment, breathe, and ask yourself, not where you are today, but where you are going. Because the future does not belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who prepare for it. Silently, patiently, and consistently. Then let us bring it all together, gently, thoughtfully, the way true understanding always arrives. Dear beloved listeners, the story you have just experienced is not really about the United Arab Emirates. It is about a principle, a quiet, powerful truth that governs every form of lasting success. That wealth is not an event. It is a process shaped by vision, guided by discipline, and sustained by patience. What turned a silent desert into a global symbol of prosperity was not merely oil or opportunity. It was the ability to think beyond the present moment, to see value where others saw emptiness, to act when others hesitated, to stay consistent when results were nowhere to be seen. And if you look closely, you will realize that the same path is open to you, not in grand gestures, not in sudden breakthroughs, but in the quiet rhythm of your daily decisions, the way you respect money, the way you control your emotions, the way you choose patience over impulse. These small, almost invisible choices, they are shaping your future. Even now, dear family of dreamers, there is no rush. There is no need to chase what is not yet ready, because true wealth does not come to those who hurry. It comes to those who prepare, those who build slowly, those who think deeply, those who remain steady when everything around them feels uncertain. And perhaps the greatest reward of all is not the money itself, but the peace that comes with it. The peace of knowing that you are no longer controlled by fear, that your life is no longer driven by survival, that you have created something stable, something meaningful, something lasting. So as you move forward from this moment, carry this understanding with you. Be patient, be disciplined, be consistent. Trust the process, even when it feels slow, because just like every great transformation, your journey is already unfolding, quietly, steadily, beautifully, and one day, without noise, without announcement, you will look back and realize that everything you once hoped for was being built all along.